Have you ever stopped to think about why only 1% of people manage to achieve the long-dreamed financial freedom? It's not because these people were born rich or had luck, but because they learned to see money in a different way. While most people view their salary only as something to pay bills, they see it as a powerful tool to build a future of freedom. Let's imagine a situation. Anna works at a regular job, earns an average salary, and barely has anything left at the end of the month. For her, the idea of becoming financially independent seems impossible. She thinks, how can someone like me, who earns so little, dream of this? But the truth is that financial freedom doesn't depend on how much you earn, but on how you use what you earn. This small percentage of people who achieve financial independence didn't start at the top. They started from the same place as many of us, with debts, modest salaries, and challenges. The difference? They decided to change the way they thought and acted regarding money. Instead of seeing their salary as a limit, they began to see it as an opportunity to create something greater. This 1% isn't an exclusive and unattainable club. Anyone can be a part of it. But the first step is simple and powerful. Change your mindset and start seeing every reel that comes in as the brick of a big building. After all, every great construction starts with the first block, right? It all starts here, in the way you see money and what it represents. Many of us were taught to see our salary as something that barely covers the bills, or as a weight that limits our dreams. But people who achieve financial freedom see their salary differently. For them, it's not a burden, but a powerful tool capable of transforming realities. Think of Pedro. He always believed his salary was just for paying bills, and maybe having a little left for occasional leisure. When things got tight, he would lament, "I'm never going to get out of this routine." But then he decided to change his way of thinking. He stopped looking at his salary as something fixed and limited and started seeing it as a lever, a starting point for achieving something greater. The secret of wealthy people is exactly that. They don't rely only on their salary. They use it strategically as a means to generate other sources of income. They know that every reel can be a step toward creating wealth, not just a cycle of earn and spend. Changing your mindset may seem like a small step, but it's gigantic. When you stop thinking in terms of "I can't" and start asking yourself, "How can I make this work?" something magical happens. Suddenly, what once seemed impossible starts to become reality. Now ask yourself, how do you see the money you earn? As a limitation or as an opportunity? This simple shift in perspective could be the first brick in the construction of your financial future. One of the biggest enemies of financial freedom isn't the size of the salary, but the way you think about it. The scarcity mindset is like an invisible brake that stops people from progressing. Thoughts like, "I don't earn enough," "I'll never be able to save money," or "It's impossible to invest with what I have." These phrases may seem harmless, but they act as barriers that keep you in the same place. Now imagine Carla. She works hard every day, but every time she gets her salary, she feels like it's not enough. The bills arrive, unexpected expenses appear, and the little that's left goes to purchases she knows deep down she didn't need. She always tells herself, "With what I earn, saving is impossible." This thought becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Month after month, she stays stuck in the same financial struggle. But here's the thing, the scarcity mindset is a trap, and getting out of it isn't about earning more, but thinking differently. The people who achieve financial freedom face the same challenges as Carla. What set them apart is that instead of focusing on what they couldn't do, they decided to focus on what could be done with what they had. For example, instead of saying, "I don't earn enough to invest," think, "How can I invest with what I earn?" This shift in thinking opens doors to creative solutions. Maybe you can't invest large sums immediately, but you can start small with accessible investments such as fixed income or low-cost funds. The important thing isn't how much you start with, but that you start. And there's more. Avoiding the scarcity mindset also means stopping looking at problems as excuses and starting to see them as opportunities. Let's say you think you don't have money left at the end of the month. This is a sign to review how you're spending. Are there expenses that can be cut or optimized? That streaming subscription you rarely use, or the daily lunch is out, could be opportunities to save and redirect that money. Another important point is learning to celebrate small victories. Let's say that in 1 month you managed to save 50. For many, that might seem insignificant, but for someone changing their mindset, it's a big step. Every reel saved is one reel closer to financial freedom. It's the sum of small efforts that builds great results over time. Finally, remember that the scarcity mindset isn't a reflection of your reality, but of how you choose to see it. Carla, realizing this, started transforming her thoughts. She decided that instead of repeating that it was impossible, she would find ways to make it happen. In a few months, Carla started seeing changes. Her spending was more organized, she managed to save a small reserve, and even started learning about investments. Now it's your turn. Instead of thinking about what you don't have, ask yourself, what can I do with what I already have today? This simple question could be the start of a change that transforms not just your bank account but your entire financial life. Often we believe that the key to getting rich is earning more money. It seems logical. The more you earn, the more you can save and invest, right? But the reality is surprising. It's not how much you earn that defines your financial success, but how you spend what you earn. Let's imagine the case of Eduardo and Felipe. Eduardo earns a high salary, but as soon as the money hits his account, he spends it to maintain a luxurious lifestyle, an expensive car with high installments, frequent dinners at restaurants, and a wardrobe full of designer clothes. At the end of the month, despite his good salary, Eduardo is always broke and even accumulating debts. On the other hand, Felipe, who earns a smaller salary, lives more simply. He organizes his expenses, avoids unnecessary spending, and directs part of his money to savings and investments. Now, who do you think is building wealth? Surprisingly, it's not Eduardo with his high salary, but Felipe, who knows how to manage what he earns. That's because the secret to wealth isn't earning more, but controlling the flow of money. Controlling expenses doesn't mean living miserably or giving up everything you enjoy. On the contrary, it's learning to prioritize what really matters and cut excesses that don't add value to your life. Want a practical example? Instead of buying that latest generation phone that costs a small fortune, how about analyzing if your current model still meets your needs? The money that would be spent on that purchase could be used to invest in something that will bring financial return in the future. Another important point is understanding the difference between necessary spending and impulse buying. How many times have you entered a store or browsed a shopping website and seen something you just couldn't pass up? These little impulse buys may seem harmless, but over time, they add up to amounts that could have been invested. That's why a practical tip is to adopt the 24-hour rule. Before making any purchase that isn't essential, wait a day to reflect if it's really necessary. Often, you'll find that the desire to buy disappears. Additionally, it's crucial to know where your money is going. Most people spend without even realizing where most of their salary is going. That's why creating a budget can be transformative. It doesn't have to be complicated. A simple spreadsheet or even a financial tracking app can help you visualize your spending and identify areas where you can save. Finally, remember that true financial freedom doesn't come from earning a lot, but from making your money work for you. This is only possible when you learn to control how it's spent. Felipe, with his smaller salary, started building a solid future because he prioritized the essentials, saved, and invested wisely. Meanwhile, Eduardo, with his high salary, continues trapped in a cycle of spending that doesn't bring him stability. And you? Are you spending consciously or letting money slip through your fingers? The good news is that it's never too late to change. Financial control starts with small actions today that will make a huge difference in your tomorrow. If you've already tried to organize your finances, you've probably noticed how easy it is to get lost when everything seems like a priority. Fixed bills, desires, emergencies. That's where the importance of separating your expenses strategically comes in. This is one of the golden rules of financial education and can transform how you manage your money. Let's imagine Anna's story. She earned a reasonable salary, but at the end of the month, she couldn't understand where her money had gone. Like many of us, she paid the bills, spent on leisure, and left savings for what was left over. The problem? There was never anything left until she discovered the famous 30% rule for financial goals taught by Robert Kiyosaki. This rule changed her life. The rule is simple but powerful. Separate 10% of your salary for savings, 10% for investments, and 10% for personal development. But what does this mean in practice? 10% for savings. Think of savings as your life jacket. It's the money you save for emergencies, like an unexpected medical expense or an urgent car repair. Anna started by saving $100 per month, an amount that seemed small but soon turned into an emergency fund of $3,000 in just over 2 years. This money saved her from taking out expensive loans when she had a medical emergency. 10% for investments. Investing is key to financial growth. These 10% aren't meant to sit idle. They should be put to work. Anna decided to start with Treasury Direct, a safe and accessible option for beginners. Over time, she studied stocks and real estate funds, expanding her investment portfolio. Even with modest contributions, she saw her money begin to grow consistently. 10% for personal development. Few people realize the importance of investing in themselves. This percentage is for courses, books, training, and anything that enhances your knowledge or skills. In Anna's case, she used part of the money to learn about finances and part to improve her professional skills. Not only did this help her manage her money better, but it also earned her a promotion at work. Why does this separation work? The biggest benefit of this approach is that it creates clarity and discipline. When you allocate money in advance for each goal, you avoid the famous, "I spent everything and now there's nothing left to save." Additionally, by separating expenses, you ensure that you're prioritizing what really matters, building a solid financial future and personal growth. Another advantage is that this practice eliminates the anxiety of thinking you need to save everything. By setting aside just 30% of your salary for these goals, you can live in the present while building for the future. What if 30% isn't possible? If you think 30% is an unattainable number right now, don't worry. Start with what you can, 5%, 10%, or even $50. The most important thing is to create the habit of setting aside and respecting the limits you set. Consistent effort matters more than immediate perfection. Anna started with small steps, and in a few years, she transformed her financial situation. Before, she lived paycheck to paycheck with no perspective. Now she has a robust emergency fund, an investment portfolio, and is constantly learning new skills. And you, have you tried separating your expenses this way? Remember, it's not about how much you earn, but about how you organize and use what you have. This simple rule could be the first step to transforming your finances and, who knows, your life. Have you heard that the secret to financial freedom is making money work for you? This concept, which seems so distant for many, begins with building assets that generate passive income. But what does that mean in practice? Let's explore together. What are assets? Assets are resources that put money in your pocket even when you're not working. It could be a rented property, dividend-paying stocks, your own business, or even an online course you created and sell on the internet. Unlike liabilities like cars or electronics, which take money out of your pocket through maintenance, taxes, or depreciation, assets increase your wealth over time. Imagine João and Carla. João has a stable job, but he spends all his salary on liabilities, a new car, top-of-the-line electronics, and expensive dinners. Carla, with the same salary, decided to invest in assets. She bought shares of solid companies, acquired a small apartment to rent, and started an online business. After a few years, Carla no longer depends solely on her salary, while João remains stuck in the rat race, always working to pay the bills. How to start building assets? Building assets may seem complex, but it all starts with small steps. Here are some practical strategies. Invest in dividend-paying stocks. Stocks from companies that distribute part of their profits to shareholders are an excellent way to generate passive income. Even with little money, you can start investing in fractional shares or index funds. Buy properties to rent. If you're able to acquire a property, considering it as an asset might be a good idea. Small apartments or garages are affordable options and in high demand for rent. Create a digital product. Do you have knowledge in any area? Turn it into an online course, ebook, or another digital product. This is an asset that can generate continuous income with little effort after the launch. Invest in businesses. Whether starting your own business or investing as a partner in small companies, this can be an excellent way to generate assets. Of course, it requires study and planning, but the rewards can be great. The power of assets over time. Assets have a powerful cumulative effect. Initially, the return may seem small, but over time, the gains start to add up. It's the snowball effect. For example, imagine you invest in a real estate fund that pays $50 per month in dividends. It may seem little, but by reinvesting that money, you're creating a constant growth cycle. After a few years, these dividends could double or even triple, all without additional effort, turning work into freedom. The big advantage of assets is that they allow you to make money while you sleep. Unlike a job, where you trade hours for a paycheck, assets continue to generate income regardless of your daily effort. This doesn't mean you should stop working, but the ultimate goal is to not depend solely on your job. João, our character, is still stuck in the cycle of working to pay his expenses. Carla, on the other hand, can choose where and how she wants to work because her assets provide her with a stable income. And you? Have you started building your assets? If not, it's never too late to begin. Even a small step today can be the start of a journey toward financial freedom. How about turning your salary into a tool to generate wealth and achieve your dreams? Now that we've explored the steps to turn your salary into a true wealth generator, the big question is, what will you do with this information? Remember, knowledge only makes a difference when it's put into practice. It doesn't matter where you are now. What matters is taking the first step. If you like this content and think it can help more people, like the video, share and subscribe to the channel. Your participation is essential for us to keep bringing valuable tips like these. And before you go, let me know in the comments, which of these strategies will you start applying today in your life? Let's build this path together. See you next time.